Hello, you are listening to The Wellness Project with Des. I'm your host, Desiree, a mental health therapist and holistic wellness coach. On my podcast, I interview experts in the field of mental health and wellness, as well as those who share their firsthand accounts of their mental health journeys. These interviews will give you many tips, tools, and strategies to improve your mental health, as well as give you hope, support, encouragement, and inspiration on your own personal mental health and wellness journey. Thanks so much for being here. I would greatly appreciate it if you took a moment to leave me a review on iTunes and leave the podcast 5 stars on Spotify. It really helps the podcast to grow, which in turn helps me to keep bringing on amazing guests and spreading mental health and wellness education and support. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss an episode. Are you ready to embark on a transformative journey towards holistic well-being, unlocking the full potential of your mind, body, and spirit? If so, I'm thrilled to invite you to my program, the Holistic Wellness Transformation Coaching Program. My one-to-one coaching program is a comprehensive and individualized approach to help you improve your overall well-being. As a holistic wellness coach, I'm here to guide you on a transformative journey to attain balance and harmony in all areas of your life. With personalized coaching sessions, I'll offer guidance and support throughout your wellness journey. Starting with a thorough holistic assessment. We'll dive into your past, habits, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and patterns that may be holding you back and no longer serving you. This assessment forms the foundation for your customized wellness plan. Together, we'll explore the 8 foundational elements of wellness to ensure you feel balanced and aligned with your goals and your values. This program goes beyond the surface, providing you with mental and emotional support. I will help you to manage stress, anxiety, and other challenges such as perfectionism and people-pleasing, offering techniques and strategies to enhance your resilience and your skills. The benefits of this program cannot be overstated. I'll be there every step of the way to support you in achieving balance and harmony in your life, manage stress, and improve your emotional well-being. Nurture healthy connections, create lasting, healthy habits, achieve your goals, and gain confidence in your ability to transform your life. Join me on this journey to holistic wellness. You could go to my website to check out my various packages, and you could go to my Calendly link found in the show notes to schedule a free 30-minute consultation call where we will go over the 8 core areas of wellness, as well as your goals and your dream life. Reach out and let's get started on your wellness journey so you can finally live the life you want. Hello there, I'm your host Des, and you are listening to episode number 160, where I speak with Angel Evinger. Angel has been living with depression and anxiety since early 2000s. And after many attempts to feel better, she finally decided that she needed extra support in the form of medication. She resisted at first because of a lot of stigma that surrounds medication and the idea that she was thinking she should be able to get through on her own and handle things on her own. She finally surrendered to the fact that to live a full life without depression, that she needed medication. This all started when Angel was diagnosed with postpartum depression after her second child was born. Because of how much she was struggling, her OBGYN referred her to a psychiatrist. I'm so glad that we're having this conversation today because medication has such a stigma around it, and it may not be right for some people, but it really is right for others. Some people really need medication to be able to function and get through their day and living fulfilled lives where they are able to grow and thrive. Medication for your mental health is just as valid as medication for an illness or a physical ailment. If you are somebody that takes medication for your mental health, know that there is absolutely no shame in that, and that we are having this conversation to try to break this stigma and to normalize the idea that medication can be beneficial. And if you are somebody that doesn't feel that medication is right for you or you're against medication, that is totally fine, but I hope that you can listen to this conversation with an open mind and an open heart. I'm really looking forward to this conversation, so help me welcome on Angel.
Welcome to the show, Angel. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Oh, thanks so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So, to get us started, I would love if you can introduce yourself and share your mental health journey with us, how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Angel Evinger. I think now looking back, I probably had some issues when I was in my teens. And I found that the most time that I would have issues is when I would allow myself to not be busy. But I never really kind of knew it, never really kind of picked up on that. But when I had my second daughter, I was having a hard time afterwards. And the difference between my first and my second is my first, I got pregnant really fast with my second. So after I had my second, I started experiencing what was called postpartum depression. And that kind of kept going, even though I had, gotten past the postpartum period, what would be considered normal. And so my OB who was treating me said, I think you need to go see a psychiatrist. And so that's kind of how I started my journey. Now, when I was on considered postpartum, they did put me on some medication. And so I did take some stuff during that time. And then when I went to my psychiatrist, I kind of got into a treatment plan that really started my journey, through depression. And it's been kind of a long journey. She's 21 now. So, it's been kind of a long time that I've had the experience and lived with this. And, some of the things that really stand out in my mind for things that happened was I just lost a sense of will, almost a sense of happiness. I just had no drive to do anything. And being a parent and a stay at home parent and somebody that was taking care of my kids, it's really a challenge to not only be taking care of myself, but how do I continue to be a good wife and a good mom, even though you're living with depression and anxiety? And that's kind of been the journey that I've had between then and now. And, some of the things that have really helped me stay on track. And medication has been one of those things.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, I do want to go back a little bit. So, you said that you noticed that looking back, you were kind of having some issues as a teenager, but you really noticed that you were struggling with depression while you were pregnant with your second daughter. So, what did that kind of look like? And what did you share with your OB that they actually referred you to a psychiatrist? What did that look like?
A lot of it is what's considered the baby blues, which, the sadness and the emotional overwhelm. And I mean, after having a baby, your body's going through so much. I think all of that is normal to some extent. But with me, it became where she just saw that I was struggling so much just to be a mom to a toddler and a newborn. And how do you take care of those kids when you just can't hold yourself together? And so I remember just being really sad and not driven to do anything. So I would spend a lot of time in bed and just exhausted and not really knowing what direction I was in. And I remember her saying to me, I think that maybe we should get you on medication. And I remember thinking, oh God, and I don't want to go that route. I don't want to be someone that quote unquote needs medication. And I really fought against what she was suggesting because I thought that I should be able to live without any additional quote unquote help, to keep me going. And so I really fought this idea inside me that I had to accept that sometimes outside help is what you need. That has been a journey throughout my entire process because I think even as time went on, the idea that, oh, I'll be okay, I can come off my medication and come off of it and think that I'm going to be okay. And sometimes, you start and you're like, oh, I feel fine, everything's okay. And then a week or two later, you feel the overwhelm come back in and you feel the sadness and you feel the lack of motivation to do anything. And so I had this constant battle within my own mind about, okay, should I be taking medication to feel normal or should I expect to feel normal? and not take a medication, So it's really been this battle throughout my entire time that I've been on medication.
I'm really glad that you brought a lot of these points up because I think it's very common for when people are on medication that they're feeling better. So they're like, oh, I'm better. Everything's great. I'm going to come off of my medication, only to kind of go back to the state they were prior to the medication, that we kind of forget that I'm feeling better because I'm on medication, right? So I
Right.
think that's a very common cycle to get on and off medication.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it really came to a head. I remember my youngest was a toddler. And I remember this battle that it should be normal. I should be able to live my life without medication. So I would go off my medication automatically. I would become frustrated. I would become what I would consider not necessarily a good mom or a good wife, right? To have a relationship with me was really a challenge when I went off of these medications. And, the sadness, everything that just crept in after that. And I fought this and I thought, okay, I shouldn't need this. I shouldn't need medication. And then I realized that on one particular occasion, I went off. I just looked at everything around me and thought, you know what? I'm not a good mom when I'm not on medication because I'm frustrated. My temper is low. I don't interact with them as much because I don't have the will to do that. And so it really hit me at that particular point that, okay, in order to be a good mom to my kids, which is the goal, which is the ultimate goal, and in order to have a really healthy relationship with my husband, which of course I wanted to sustain, right, was I had to accept that medication was going to be part of my life for probably the rest of my life, especially while my kids were young and while I needed to take care of them and they needed a nurturing mother. So that's kind of when I decided, okay, so I'm going to take my medication, which is unfortunate. But for me, it was not for me. It was because it made me a better mother, and my kids and my husband needed that better version of me. And that is what kept me on track with my medication for all this time. Like I said, my youngest is 21. So this entire time I've been really strict about, being on my medication and making sure that I'm not only taking care of them, but taking care of myself so that I can be a better mother. I can be in a relationship that's solid. So that's kind of what's, happened throughout my journey is this constant fight that at that point I decided, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm just going to give in and understand that that's what I needed to be normal. Not everybody is not normal. I hate that word, but that's what I needed to feel good for my family and to take care of my family. And that's the decision that I finally made moving forward.
There is so much stigma surrounding taking medication. So you said that when your OB recommended medication while you were pregnant and for the postpartum and everything, and referring you to a psychiatrist, you really kind of fought that idea, right? So what finally convinced you? What was the deciding factor that you were like, you know what, I'm gonna give this a try and kind of give in to this idea?
It was that realization that I wasn't the best parent I could be when I went off my medication, and putting those 2 together, okay, I haven't been taking my medication and now I'm yelling at my daughter who is 2, right, who doesn't deserve to have somebody to yell at her. It just came to a point where I just couldn't accept it anymore. I did it for them, which because of that, I became a better version of myself, not only to them, but to myself as well.
Now, was this a decision that you discussed with your husband? Did he have any input about taking medication or did he have any reservations? How did that look within your relationship?
Well, from the very beginning, he's always been really supportive. And I think he had just as many questions about the medication as I did. But when he saw that it was actually helping, I think he was able to come to terms with that. Now, even all these years later, medication isn't always as easy as taking one medication and being okay. It's often a cocktail of different medications. You really have to find it is individual to each person taking that medication. So it took a few years for us to get that right combination that worked, that made me feel alive and happy, which is one thing that I think you lack without that. He questioned all these ideas that, why are we taking so many medications and what are they doing? So he spent a lot of time going with me to the doctors, asking questions and being really involved in kind of what was happening and understanding what was happening. He's always been really involved and very supportive. If something changed, if like a medication changed or anything like that, he would really pay special attention to find out, okay, what is she showing me that's different? Is she happier? Is she angrier? Is she struggling? He kind of became this mirror to me because when you're in the midst of all this, I think you have a really hard time keeping track of all the things that you're experiencing. That's why a journal or a medication diary or something like that can really be a lot of help because you can look back on it. But for many of the things that I can even say to him, do you remember when I took this medication? And he might remember specifically, and then he might go, oh, yeah, this is what your side effects were with that. And not everybody is going to have a husband that's going to not only, be able to be as supportive, but to have that memory that he had to be able to kind of walk me back through that. I do now keep a journal that says, okay, this is the medication. This is what I was feeling, as kind of things have changed through the 20 years from, being on this medication and switching medications, because not only does your medication need to change, but it changes because your body changes and you age and your chemicals change and all that stuff changes with you. And now I'm starting to go through, the changes in life and the stuff that happens after you've had kids and everything. And I'm finding that we need to re-examine the things that are working within me and what's not working within me. So going back to your question, my husband's always been really supportive and he's been able to remind me of things that I may not necessarily remember. So it's really good to have a support system. Now, one of the things that I kind of recommend to people who may be going through this for the first time is to make a list of all of those people that really are there to support you. So a list of your psychiatrist and the phone number so that your husband or spouse or whatever can actually reach out to them if they need to. If you're having a hard time and you're not in a place to call the doctor, they are always available to do that and to reach out. So if you have a life coach or if you have a therapist, put those names on there as well. If your mom is somebody that's really supportive, put the name and number of your mom. I kind of call this your wellness team. So it's a team of people that are really there for you and supportive. And you know that you've had conversations with them about, when I'm struggling, I want to be able to not only reach out to you, but people within my team can sometimes reach out to each other and support each other on how they could best help me, because it's not always within my own vision.
So much great information in here. So first of all, I'm so glad that you have that support from your husband, because sadly, so many people don't. It's so important to have a support network. And I love that you bring that up, to have all the doctors communicate with your family and everything. And it's so important to have all of those phone numbers, keep track of them, have them in your phone. And just for everyone listening, if you do want your family, partner, whatever the case may be, to communicate with your therapist, doctor, whoever, make sure you, at first, when you start seeing them, sign a release of information, because they will not speak to anyone but you if they don't have that release. So if that is your plan, make sure all the doctors, family, everyone has releases for each other.
Good. Yeah, that's a great thing. Yeah.
And I'm also glad that you brought up that the medication is not a sort of one and done, I'm cured kind of thing, right?
Right.
I really tell people to look at it as an experiment, because you're right. Everybody reacts to medication differently. Everybody's bodies are different. The dosages, this medication might work great for somebody else, but not great for this person. So everybody's so different. So it really is an experiment, seeing what works best for you. If you have side effects a little bit from one, none for the other, it really is just an experiment. And you do change dosages of medications over time. And it is possible to lower your dose over time, or just take an as needed medication, or, kind of taper off and wean yourself off. So it really is its own journey, and to not kind of have unrealistic expectations that you're going to go to the doctor, they're going to prescribe you a pill and everything's going to be great and magical and wonderful.
Right.
That's just not the realistic journey.
Right. And I think it's hard to experience that as well, and to realize that you don't get a pill and feel better. Now, some people do. Some people get one helpful medication and then they feel great. And that is amazing and, and wonderful. And some people need, unfortunately, 5 medications that are all individually calculated on how much dosage you're going to need. And it really goes back to how you feel when you're on those medications and having a good doctor that's able to, say, oh, okay, so when you're on that medication, you don't feel better. My doctor always asks me, do you smile? Do you laugh? Is one of the big ones. Do you laugh? And I'm like, oh God, I haven't laughed and like a long time. And that's one of the indicators on how you're feeling. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, or sometimes the feelings of being under depression is really just a numb feeling. You just have no drive, you have no motivation. You could lay in bed all day and be completely fine, and you're not fine because obviously you're struggling, but that could be what your day looks like. It just goes back to what your experience is.
Oh, absolutely. And you're very open with your husband about your medication. So I was wondering, are you open with friends, extended family, parents, things like that, in laws?
I was really lucky because I had a girlfriend who had experienced depression before me, and we met when our kids were really young, so we had kids that were the same age. She's really been a support system to me. One, because she had that experience before I did, and she was able to say what her experience was. And she also had information on the different medications and what they did because she did the research. So I had this amazing resource in one of my girlfriends who had that information. And we're friends today, and we still talk about medication. We still talk about the things that we're experiencing. I'm pretty open with it. Obviously, I will have these conversations with people. I don't necessarily go in and say, oh, let's have a conversation about depression. But if somebody's wondering or has questions, I'm very open to talk about it. And my kids know that I've experienced this, and they've had their own journey, unfortunately, with mental health issues. And so I try to have that conversation with them as if there's no stigma between them and me. And really, I've seen them have the same struggle with medication, to not wanting to have to take it to live their life. And it's unfortunate to see that same struggle that I've had in them as well, and watching them kind of go through that. But they have their own journey, and I can help guide them as much as I can, but they have to make their own decisions now that they're adults, if they should take something or not.
And that's why conversations like the one we're having right now are so important, because your kids know that they can go to you because you've been open about it. So they can confide in you and get advice and get your wisdom and your experience with your journey. So I think it's really great that you're so open about it. It's really important.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, whatever I can do to help. And that's one of the things that's really been kind of my mission is there are people out there that maybe are new moms and are experiencing that to that extent, or maybe are going through menopause and through perimenopause. And so there's this wide range, I think, of people who are experiencing things maybe that are new in their life. And I would love to be able to just use my experiences to help them as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. It's really great what you're doing. And I was curious too. So you did mention that you've been on medication for, around 20-ish years, on and off different medications, but you mentioned that there are other things that you do as well to manage your depression on top of the medication. I was hoping that you could share some other coping strategies and things that you do that improve your symptoms.
I think one of the major ones, which we already talked about, was really having a support system to help support you, because you can't do it all on your own. And there's an outside person, such as your husband or mom or doctor, or whoever that is, who can really look at you and say, your outlook has changed, or, I feel like you're going back into a depression, and really providing that mirror for you, because sometimes we don't realize it until somebody points it out to you. And I do yoga. I'm a yoga teacher. So I think that's really an important aspect of being healthy, is really taking time to focus on yourself. And yoga has the postures, the movements that here in the West we understand as yoga, but there's also a spiritual side to it not even a spirit. I mean, there is that as well, but a side to it where you focus on yourself and really getting to know yourself. And sometimes those poses that you have are quiet moments for you to connect with yourself that, really help. So this idea that I'm able to go and do yoga for an hour and really focus on myself and focus on bettering myself within that class, I think really helps. It could be walking, it could be, riding a bike or running or meditation. It doesn't even have to be a physical exercise. Although I do notice that the physical movements, they release endorphins that literally make you feel better. So those things I think are, if you can incorporate them into your life. And I understand that if you're in the midst of the depression and the dark side, it's very difficult to get up and do those things. Sometimes it's as much as taking a shower. If you're in a position where that's been challenging for you and you can just say, okay, today I'm going to take one step and I'm going to take a shower, or I'm going to take one step and I'm going to listen to a podcast on depression, or it could be a number of different things that you really try to focus on yourself rather than looking at it and saying, I need to, run around the block for, 20 minutes. Just say, I'm going to go for a walk and it's going to be down to the street and then come back. And that's enough, right? You got your shoes on, you went down the street, you came back, and that is enough. So, really realizing that these baby steps that you have, I think, can be milestones, within the world of depression and anxiety.
Oh, great. Yes, I love that. Angel, this has been so amazing. Do you have any words of wisdom or advice for those that are really struggling with their depressive symptoms, their depression, and they're kind of on the fence about medication? They have a lot of reservations. Again, there is a lot of stigma surrounding medication.
Yeah, I think that, doing the research and really figuring, okay, is medication for me? And the real question I think is, do I feel like I can be in this life, that I can experience life on a happy end where I'm at without medication? And if the answer to that is no, if you're not being the best version of yourself, then try it. Try a medication and see if that helps. And again, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 tries to get to the point where you're on a medication that works. Once you feel better, I think a lot of times it's like, okay, so this medication is worth it because I feel better. And often what's happened to me is I don't realize how bad I feel until I feel better. You're like, "Oh, wow, I this is amazing. I feel, like I can walk around the block. I can do somersaults. I can do things that I really enjoy." And I think that really understanding that and going through an evaluation in your own mind and talking to people. And like I said, if you have a spouse or a mom or a friend, anyone that can really say, can you give me an outside view of what you experience with me, and using that as a tool. But if you don't feel like you're living your best life, if you don't feel like you're really engaged in life, that isn't a place I think that you would wanna stay. And so if it's something that you truly want to live a better life, medication may be worth trying. And if it doesn't work for you, I'm not a person that says everyone has to take medication, because it's an individual choice that you go through, but taking the time to just really research it. And then if a doctor gives you a specific medication, know what that is, know what the side effects are, know what the things that other people are experiencing with that. And I think with contacts that we have on the internet, we can look up anything, and there's support groups on just about anything you can look up on Facebook too. So if there's a certain medication that they recommend, then do your research and keep track of how you feel so that you can always look back on it. Because another thing that happens when you're in depression is this fog. So I think that for me anyway, the fog made my memory not as great because I wasn't fully experiencing things. So, having notes or having somebody else there to help you, I think is really important.
Oh, great. I love all of those tips. Angel, thank you so much for being here today. I would love if you could share where everyone can find you.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook and Instagram under Angel Evinger. So first and last name, you can find me there. I have a website, angelevinger.com. So yeah, so you can find me everywhere with my first and last name.
Perfect. And everyone, I'm going to put all those links in the show notes. So definitely go check out Angel. Angel, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you having me.
I really hope that you liked this episode and gained a lot of value from it. If you did like this episode, please share it on social media. You can tag me at The Wellness Project with Des on Instagram and at According to Des on Facebook. If you do enjoy my podcast and gain value from it, I would greatly appreciate your support. You can show your love and support by buying me a coffee. This will help my podcast to grow and in turn will help me to keep bringing on amazing guests. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/The Wellness Project with Des to show your support. All books written by or recommended by my amazing podcast guests are listed on my Amazon storefront. Go to the link in the show notes to check out those books. I would love to extend an invite to you to become a part of my community. You can do this through Facebook, where we will be discussing this episode. I would love for you to share your insights, any aha moments, any thoughts or ideas you would like to contribute. You can contribute in the discussion taking place in my Facebook group, and it's a great place to connect with me because I am in there every day with mental health and wellness content, discussions, reflections, journal prompts. It's a fun and supportive place to be. You can find the group at facebook.com/groups/according to Des, and that link will also be in the show notes. You can also check out more of what I'm doing on my website, accordingtodes.com. You'll find a lot of wellness blogs, written interviews, detailed podcast show notes, and my shop, where you will be able to find workshops, my self-care course, digital downloads, ebooks. There's a lot going on my website, so make sure you check that out at accordingtodes.com. And while you're there, join my email list to stay in the know about what I have going on and available for you. When you sign up, you will get your free ebook, The 5 Stress Reduction Techniques to help you feel more relaxed. Thank you so much for being here. I will talk to you next week. So until then, I hope you have a calm and peaceful week.